My name is Evan Armstrong. I work for the Central Pennsylvania Food Bank. Specifically, I work on our team that helps work on service insights. Hopefully that is what you know that we're here for. Um, I am here today just to give you a quick demo video, show you what the platform looks like, how it works, generally speaking, and give you more kind of a broad overview to show you what it looks like before we do some more in-depth training, so that hopefully the idea is that you and your volunteers or your coworkers can look at this video, get an understanding of how this whole thing works, and then if you're interested, we can work through and get you onboarded into the Service Insights software and how to use that. So what we have here is the home page for Service Insights. We're starting off, this is just our test environment, as you can see up here. And the reason I'm doing that is so that we don't accidentally mess with anybody's statistics. For all intents and purposes, it works the same as our live version does. It is a little bit slower, so the load times will look a little slow on here. I promise you they are not nearly as slow on the live version of the app. It works much quicker. So to get started here, like I said, we've just got our home screen. It shows you a quick, you've got your search bar up here, button to add new visit, visit date, which is where you can adjust, if you're doing services on the day of, or if you're backdating them or making future reservations, which we'll get to in a later video if you're an agency, or we will get to later in this video if you're an agency that uses reservations. But it gives you kind of these rough numbers up here. We always treat these kind of as approximate guesses, not exact, because any technical bugs will still be accounted for. There's this list of distribution events today, which shows you any events that you have going on today. And then these are what we call our service lists, which I will get to in just a moment. But to start off, let me just show you the main thing that you're going to be doing anytime there is someone who comes to your food pantry, whether there's someone who's been there a million times before or if it's their very first time, is you're going to search and serve them. So the very first thing, like I said, will be to search and serve, because this network is shared between other pantries. So if they've been to any other pantries that use this system, then they probably already will have a record in here, and we wouldn't want to create a duplicate record. That's more work for the neighbors, more work for you, and more work for me. So that's one of the great advantages of this system, is it cuts down on the amount of paperwork that we have to do. So the first thing we'll do is we'll search neighbors up. You can search by a couple of different options, their address, their date of birth, their name, their phone number. We typically stick with just the name, but if you have a lot of like a John Smith or somebody with a very common name and you need to hone in on it, we suggest either going with a birth date or an address. Birth date obviously won't change. Addresses can change. Phone numbers are much more likely to change. But I would start with the name. So the way that we start with that is just typing in the first three initials of someone's last name, followed by a comma, a space, and then the first three their first name. That way we can catch any typos. So the first, we'll use Mickey Mouse as an example here. So we'll type in MOU, comma, space, MIC, and we'll hit search. We'll hit enter or that search glass there. And you can see I've used Mickey Mouse before in the training site, so there's a couple of different Mickey Mouses that pop up. And you can see a little bit of information, their last visit to your agency, their phone number if they have one, their date of birth, how many people are in their household, and their current address. If this isn't enough for you to determine if this is the right Mickey Mouse, you can always hit this plus, drop down, and you can see this further information. If you ever do need to edit their information outside of a service, you can hit view household info here, and that will show you their record, and you'll be able to edit it if, say, you made a mistake while you were doing their intake. But for today, we are just going to assume that Mickey Mouse, that none of these Mickey Mice are the correct Mickey Mouse. Um, so, which there are quite a lot of. So we'll add a brand new household. We always start by assuming TFAP, that it is a TFAP eligible neighbor. Most pantries that use the Service Insights software are TFAP food distributions. You can use it if you're non-TFAP and if a neighbor is non-TFAP eligible. That just means that they make over the income threshold for the year. Um, the system has a way of quickly converting that information so you don't lose all your work, even if you do start in the TFAP form and then have to transfer to the non-TFAP form. So the required information in this form, as you can see, it's essentially the same as a paper form, just in digital format. But the required information will all pop up in blue, unless you've moved past it, like I clicked in this one and clicked out of it. So now it's highlighted in red, and it will have this asterisks and say this is required underneath. If you try to move forward, it will pop you back and highlight it all in red. So it's really, really hard to miss required information in this system, which is one of the nicer things. So we will put in Mickey's required information, first and last name. We will give him a random date of birth, let's say 12/21 of 1972. You don't have to put in any slashes, but you do have to put in all of the digits. So even if it was like August, you would have to put in 08, and that'll give you the age automatically. According to the new TFAP guidelines, zip code and county are the only two things that are required. However, in practice, lots of neighbors give you their address if you ask. It's useful for us from an advocacy point of view to be able to say, hey, look, here's where people are using our food pantries. Here's how we need to prepare for that. But that is absolutely not required. So if neighbors don't want to give it, they don't have to. But we will say Mickey Mouse lives I'm in Milton right now, so it's popping up, or I'm in Lewisburg, so it's popping up nearby addresses to me. And you can see once you start typing in an address, it'll give you the Google Maps suggestion. Once you click on that, it fills out all the rest of the address information that you need. So that's fairly easy. For a phone number, we can get a phone number. If you do, make sure it say that you ask if it's okay to contact, and then determine, how you can actually contact them, whether that's texts, calls, or emails. But if they don't have a phone number or don't want to give one, you can just click that no phone and it'll uncheck that. Um, for household, now these are importantly only people from the household that are not including Mickey. Right? So the person that we put in up at the top, that's one person. These are anybody else. So let's say we've got Mickey, Minnie, and Donald Duck all living together in a household. So we will add, and they're all adults. So we will add two other people here to account for Minnie and Donald. Now you'll see it automatically populates that. It says adult one, adult two, and then just carries down the last name from whatever it was. If these members of the household will never come to pick up food, a lot of people live with their elderly grandparents or things like that, or live with kids who won't ever be able to come pick up food until they turn 18, then we don't need to put their names in. Just to kind of save you time, save the neighbors a little privacy. If that is something that uh, if time is not a concern and you want to get the most complete data, by all means. But in many instances, time is a bit of a concern. So we want to move people through kind of quickly. So usually we will just leave their names as are, unless it is someone else that's going to come pick up. The reason we do that is because if they're someone else who's going to pick up, then they can give either their name or Mickey's name. In this case, the person who's the head of the household, and the same household record will pop up. But if we left it like this and Minnie comes in and she gives her name as Minnie Mouse, she won't pop up in this household. So we'll put in Minnie's name for now, but we'll leave Donald as a placeholder. Let's say Donald is disabled and won't ever really be able to make it to the food pantry. He's kind of, for the most part, stays at home. And then it'll ask for a date of birth or an age. You can put in either one. We'll just say that Minnie is about 42. And then Donald, even though he's never going to come pick up, we will add in an age for him as well. We'll say he's also 42. How many active people outside of the household will be picking up food for you? So this is for proxies, and proxies in Service Insights are only people from outside of the household that will be coming to visit. If there's nobody that's going to come to visit, if there's nobody that would ever come pick up food, like a neighbor or a friend, then we don't need to add them. But if there is, it'll just want first name, last name, and a phone number. We'll get rid of that for now. The SNAP question is required. So we'll say, no, they don't get SNAP benefits. And then the income question, just like it is on the paper formats, people have to, in order to qualify for the Emergency Food Assistance Program, they have to fall under 185% of the federal poverty line. Here, that number is automatically calculated. So we just ask, hey, is your total household income lower than or above this number? If it's below, great, yes, and the system will tell us they're eligible. So we will also mark them eligible. This box only exists because the law requires that a human being makes this determination, not a computer. In practice, for the most part, we just check whatever this says, unless, we know that someone's making under that and it pops up as ineligible for whatever reason. If that were to happen, you can override it and just mark them as eligible. So we will hit save and continue, and then it'll bring us to the signature sheet. So there's all this legalese, the breakdown of how many people are in the household and their income. And this is essentially acting as that signature. So we will get the signee, whoever is usually in front of you. And then you can either do a typed signature, so we can just type in Mickey's name here, or you can switch to an on-screen sign and have people squiggle. Most of the times we give people tablets, so if you do want to turn them around and do that, you're more than welcome to. In my experience, the typed signature tends to be a good bit quicker. So I will just do that. We do need to type out the full names, not just the initials. We have talked to the Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture about that, and they've clarified that. So we'll save and continue. And then there are two more required questions on this third page that we are required to ask, you are required to ask. The neighbors themselves won't be required to answer, and they won't impact their services in any way. This is a condition that Feeding America has. So we have to ask the gender identity question and the race and ethnicity question. There are don't know, prefer not to answer. Don't know or prefer not to answer options for both of these questions. So if someone doesn't like that question or they don't want to answer it, they can check those boxes. But we'll say Mickey identifies as a male and he is white. The rest of the questions on the third page here are optional, so they're only if you're going to use them, but we do generate some useful data with them. So if, for instance, it will be useful for you at the pantry to know how many people speak a language other than English, how many people are disabled or former military, how many people have a specific dietary restriction that might impact your ordering. This is right. The whole point of Service Insights is that it gives you actually live data without having to dig through all your papers and compile everything. So it makes things like these that would have been much, much harder to compile in paper pretty easy to look at on the computer. So, but they are not required. So we will skip them for now. There's a notes section down here. You can add any notes. And then on this last page here, there are additional services. So if you provide food or if you provide clothing, any number of non-food services, we can add those to this last page. And additionally, we will also have a couple of we will have a CPFB SNAP referral service. So we have a team at this food bank that's the whole job is to sign people up for SNAP benefits. If you go through and you notice someone is eligible for TFAP, but they aren't signed up for SNAP, more than likely they would, our team could give them a call and they'd be good. They'd be able to help them out and get them applied to SNAP. So if you check that box, that'll just tell us at the food bank that, hey, this person is interested in getting a call from our SNAP team, and we'll pull that data and give that to our SNAP team so that they can call them. But then once you hit finish, that's the end of a service, right? So now that household is in there, and let's say that let's say it's a month from now and Mickey is coming back. We can show you now that he's been put in the system, and yep, that's the one we made there. You can see he's got 3 household members, himself, Minnie, and adult 2, which is Donald, as we know. You can add a visit here. So We will hit add visit. You have to choose the type of service that you're rendering. As always, like I said, you just kind of assume they are TFAP eligible if unless until proven otherwise. Um, and now, once this loads, all the information will be filled out. All you have to do is ask, hey, has any of your information changed since the last time you were at a food pantry? Scroll down, hit save and continue, and finish. And then you're all set to go. So it's really the biggest lift is just getting that information put in the first time, which is the same thing you do in July every year when we have to update the income guidelines. So like I said, all their information's in here. Occasionally, the SNAP question, for instance, will prompt and it'll say, hey, can you update or mark that there are no changes on this? That's because people come on and off SNAP benefits, so it's designed to reprompt that question every 3 months. If you interact with some of the optional questions um, like other government benefits or programs, I believe the disability and the dietary restrictions, a lot of those questions will also ask you to update or put no changes. But as before, anything that you miss while you're going through, it'll highlight in red and jump you back to it, say, hey, you need to do something about this. Um, so, um, pretty efficient, right? Once they're already in there, and that's already dealing with the training website being kind of slow. Um, now, there are, like we said, there are those optional questions. There are two other things I wanted to mention, which is that you can serve people anonymously and you can make non-TFAP services, obviously, as we mentioned. Anonymous services actually have to be non-TFAP services. Um, but if you have any neighbors that have really serious privacy concerns and just don't want to share their information, you can absolutely you can absolutely serve them anonymously, and there's a no fixed address box next to the address. So both of those are possibilities, which if you decide to move forward with Service Insights, we'd be more than happy to talk to you about. The last thing I want to show you before we move on to reservations and appointments is the service list here. So if we scroll down to distribution events today, you can see Hope distribution. We will show that. That's the one that we've been putting people in. When you check the box up here, you have a couple options. We've been putting people under the Hope distribution. So when you click on this button, you can see everybody that you've served so far. So we have served 22 individuals. I believe that's considered to be 7 reservations. This was a reservation event. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep. So we've got, actually, it looks like we have one more than that, but so we've got all of the people that we have served in here today, and we can either view their service, see, what their information was, or if, let's say, I accidentally served Mickey Mouse and I didn't mean to, for instance, today, because I just put him through twice, we served him twice, you can cancel that service. So if you make any mistakes like that, you can do so. But you could also go in, let's say, Mickey uh, didn't receive SNAP, but he should have, but he would like to be notified about SNAP. You can scroll down here and you can click onto that additional second service. We don't have the SNAP referral in the training website, but like if we forgot that, oh yeah, he went through the clothing drive, you can add that right here. So you don't have to run him through the system again. You can just go to the service that you already rendered and add him right in there. So with that said, that is all the information that I have for the general audience. For those of you who use an appointment system or are interested in doing reservation or are interested in doing one with Service Insights, um, I'm going to show you a little bit about how reservations work in here. So if that doesn't apply to you, you can stop watching the video now. We hope to hear from you soon about continuing your relationship with Service Insights, and we're always here to help. But if this does apply to you, then stay tuned. I'm going to show you a little bit about how that works. So with reservations, there are two kind of main ways that they go about this. There's timed reservations, in which you will set someone for a specific time slot and that time slot can be, 15 minutes or so is usually what a lot of pantries do. And you can say, okay, we've signed you up for an appointment. You'll be here at 1 o'clock on October the 29th, right? Um, and your appointment is then. Or what you can also do if you don't want to be that detailed, you don't want to limit neighbors to that narrow time slot, but you just want to get an idea of who's going to be here when, is you can make a reservation for a specific day, but not have a time. So essentially, Service Insights will just that it'll just give you kind of a rough idea of, okay, this many people are coming in on this day, this many people are coming on this day. And that way you can prepare the food, the staff, the volunteers you need to have on hand for those events. So there's those two ways of doing things. Um, and let me show you. So if we want to go back to Mickey Mouse, we're not going to add him as a new household because we already have him in there. But if we do have him in here, we will go to reserve and we can set him up for this appointment. We again always choose the TFAP, and then you can choose whatever time slot he is going to be coming in for. So in this system, we have that set up for, 15-minute intervals. We'll go ahead with that. And boom, he has a reservation in here. So we've already got him set. He will be contacted via text or email. Um, and there are hard limits to this, right? So if you try to put in like 20 people into the same 15-minute time slot, we can manage it so that only a couple of people can be put in for each time slot, so that avoids any issues that you have. And then once it is the day of, it's 10:24. We'll look up Mickey Mouse again. And here you'll see there's this new button here which says check in. So once you've made a reservation and it's now at the time of their reservation and they're here, you can just hit check in. And we can check them in for that distribution. You see the time slot that they chose, hit next, and then just like a returning service, it pulls up all their information. We go through here and we can mess with that. So, with our non-timed appointments, it looks about the same. It just, instead of choosing for a specific time slot, it just says that date. Now, if we need to edit a reservation, we can go back to our home screen. Let's make Mickey Mouse. Let's make him an appointment for, by default, it will set to whatever the current date is. So if you're trying to schedule for a future date, my advice would be to go to change the visit date to, let's say we're scheduling him for the 29th. So let's hit reserve, food pantry. Let's set him for the first one. All right, so that is in there. And now can bring him back up and so like I said, you can reserve for a future event, but if you need to edit a reservation that's been made on a specific day, you can go to that day. You can see we have one reservation. That's our Mickey Mouse. We can go into here. We can go to event reservations and we can edit or cancel the reservation under this. We can change his time slot. If I accidentally, if we're on TFAP distribution or something like that, you could change that. Or like we said, we can just cancel that reservation. But also when it is the day of the actual distribution, it's not showing it now because we're set to a future date. But when it's the day of, you can be on this page and you'll see check in as well. So we can do that. So if you fully use reservations, you don't have any walk-ins coming on the day of, then you can just hop into that day's service list, see how many reservations you have, pull that up, or even you can see the check-in list here, right? That's exactly what I'm looking for. Takes you to the same place, but if it were the day of, you would be able to check them in here. That's kind of how that works. So you can either reserve for a future date, like we said, or you can reserve for today's date just by going through, searching up whoever you are and working with them. So there's a couple of different ways in which you can do things. It's mostly pretty user friendly. And if you do set up appointments, we will be the ones who help you set up, like, okay, from when to when do you have appointments? What kind of size do you want for the hard limits of how many people you can have for a specific time slot? And also, um, looking at how big do those time slots do you want them to be? So we'll help you set all that up if you decide to use appointments. But that's all for now. Thank you very much for sticking with me. Hopefully, if you have any other questions, you will reach out to us. Like I said, this is just kind of intended to give you an idea of how the system works. Any specific kinks or issues, any things that you might have that are particular about your distribution, we will be working with you if you are interested in moving forward with Service Insights in figuring that out and figuring out and tailoring the experience custom to you and your distribution. So, thank you very much for your time and hope to hear from you soon.